Okay, guys, over the last 24 hours, there was an AI altcoin explosion. We know you must have heard about it by now. SORA by OpenAI was introduced. And just like when we saw ChatGPT come to the market, investors, the crypto market, everyone jumped on the AI narrative. Today, we're going to talk about how that AI narrative is evolving, which projects I'm looking at in that narrative, and what I think potentially might be the biggest thing since Bitcoin and Ethereum. All right, guys, if you're excited for this, if you're excited to dive into this with me, let me know that by slamming the like button. If you're new to the channel, what's up? My name is Chasse. Welcome. I've been in crypto for 12 years. My goal here is to help you make as much money as humanly possible within the next 18 to 24 months, because we have this amazing opportunity where we've ever seen so much growth in this industry at once. And if it's your first time or your second time, we will win together doing this. So without further ado, guys, let's jump into it. First thing we're going to do, as we always do, is just quickly talk about Bitcoin. It is just teetering right here around this $52,000 mark, and we'll see if we get the weekly close above it or below 52,000. I don't think it really matters because we start to see huge inflows. Yes, from my video yesterday, both trades are down a little bit. As you know, say I'm still holding onto this one. It just seems obvious to me. It doesn't seem to be coming down. It pumped after the video, and it's fine. And then Bitcoin, I think it's the support here to me is very, very strong. I have a feeling, my gut just tells me over the weekend it's just going to chop sideways. There's not going to be a whole lot of action. Most action right now is coming from Wall Street and institutions. We'll probably see sideways movement into like Sunday night or something, as people anticipate what might be happening on Monday. And my guess is on Monday, it's probably another big sales day. We'll probably see another leg up. But for now, that's Bitcoin. Like I said, a massive day yesterday, $477 million of net inflows. And what's crazy is that it just went sideways, right? Like, so it just went sideways. So that means that somebody had to offload $500 million essentially into the market for it to stay that way. So at least we got whoever wanted to sell out of the market. But this is just ruthless buy pressure. That's after GBTC sold $477 million of positive inflows. If you guys want to see how absurdly unbalanced this is, you can see that this is trailing 1 week. So in 1 week, last week, there was 49,877 Bitcoin bought by ETFs. Net, that's net, right? So that's after this one sold by GBTC. And there's only 6,107 actually newly created through miners. Now, if you apply the same sales pressure in 2 months from now, that same week will be 3,050 new Bitcoin created. So today, that's an 8x, that's a 16x demand on supply after the halving. Let that sink in for a little bit, guys. This is why our market is going up only for a while. There's just so much demand. And as we've talked about day and day and day and day, is there's just going to be constant flow coming into the market, constant flow. And this is another huge thing too. So right now, currently, Microstrategy, Michael Saylor's company, is the 535th largest company in the United States. When it reaches about $14.5 billion, it will be included in the S&P 500. And right now it's 12.13. So it needs to hit about another $2 billion in market cap, which it will likely do probably here in the next couple of months. And just with the way that the pace of Bitcoin, almost certainly it will do, almost positive. And when this happens, you will see what was relatively a very small company before turning into a behemoth. And remember, the S&P 500 is an index of the top 500 stocks, right? And so a lot of people buy the S&P 500. They buy the index. And for the first time, MicroStrategy or Bitcoin denominated company essentially will be included in the S&P 500. So indirectly or directly, almost every single investor in almost the world will have exposure to Bitcoin. This will be historical and groundbreaking. Again, I'm fairly surprised that nobody else has been following in the same shoes, but my prediction is that MicroStrategy does become an incredibly valuable company over the next 10 years. Probably the top 100 or something. I don't know. I mean, and they announced that they were going to continue to start innovating on Bitcoin technology as well. If they can do some really good stuff there, then who knows? They might be one of those valuable companies in the world in the next 5 or 10 years. For the banks are feeling FOMO. No surprise here. The Coinbase earnings report came out. Coinbase is doing amazing. Why? Because they are custodian of most of the ETFs and doing all the trading volume. And now the banks are feeling left out because for the first time in forever, they're not getting a cut of everything that's going on. Poor banks. All right, guys. So what is the whole point of today's video? SORA came out, and this was all over the place. And I can't say that I was so surprised because I had seen a lot of stuff leading up to this, but I think the quality of what's going on here is mind-blowing. And it just goes to show you that eventually, like this, like also the simulation theory, like are we living? It's actually mind-blowing. So, but more importantly, this kicked off an entire crypto AI 24-hour bull run. Now, of course, everything in AI has been pumping. And we'll talk about that in a second. But I just thought, this is also fascinating. So Sam wants to go out and raise $7 trillion. How do you even do that? How do you value a company when you're raising $7 trillion? What is it valued at? 40? It's unbelievable. Something just tells me he will probably do something like this. And I wouldn't expect this to be the end of Sam's from his innovation. Obviously not. But this is crazy, right? And for those of you guys who aren't familiar, we have the world has a large dependence on Taiwan right now for chip manufacturing, silicon, things like that. And there's been a lot of discussion about how to bring that domestically into the United States. This is probably a proposal to do that. But as you can see from the article here, he's out, soliciting different governments from like UAE, Dubai, things like that. Abu Dhabi, probably Saudi. So I actually saw a post the other day too that said, once you realize that ChatGPT 5 made SORA, it all starts to make sense. And because SORA is so complex, right? With all the shadows and the rendering and like just the, but if you had an AGI do that, it would make a lot of sense, right? That they could get it right. Just food for thought. This whole thing had me thinking because I haven't had a lot of exposure to AI tokens. We at Master Ventures have been building fluid AI, and we've been using quant-based modeling for predicting market prices and getting better, deeper liquidity in markets and things like that. But, I haven't been focused on the AI narrative because largely it's outside of my wheelhouse. But when I'm being interviewed or talk to a lot of people, the question often comes up and people ask, what do you think about crypto and AI? And that will lead you into where I'm going with the video today. But you can see there was just wild pumps across the board. If we go under the AI category, you can see things are starting to cool off a little bit right now. But even that, maybe I just refreshed. You can see the past 24 hours, you get something like, Singularity 23%, up 33%. Like everything pumped pretty hard in this narrative. And on the 7-day as well, pumps pretty hard too. So things like PAL, which we talked about on the show before, AOs, which we talked about before. And I think I largely wrote a lot of this off before as, because let's face it, a lot of it is a gimmick. A lot of it is a gimmick, right? And then I was chatting with Synesis One, very nice. We've invested in Synesis One. Okay, that's nice to see. That's from the fund. Good job pumping. But Bittensor. So it got me thinking for a while, guys, and I'm just going to talk to you for a second here. So a lot of people ask, like, does blockchain and AI belong together? And a lot of people say no, but I can't think of a better use case for a open, permissionless, I believe permissionless. I don't know if Bittensor, I have to look into this, because I'll admit, like, as I haven't, I need to do a lot more of a deep dive into Bittensor. And the realization I had today was that I need to look into it a lot more, right? And the most I can get from the research team was very high level, something that would be okay for a video like this, but not enough for me to commit deeply to it, right? For me to fully understand it. And I don't want to do that yet, because it's at a $4.1 billion market cap. It's a $14 billion FTV. It's expensive. But what does that mean? Figuratively, expensive compared to what? If you compare it to Bitcoin's market cap, it's not expensive. If you compare it to Ethereum, it's not expensive, right? It's a layer 1 infrastructure. And from a high level, it's talking about essentially creating a decentralized neural network of different types of large language or learning models, and having it be a source where people can go to and access these language models that have been vetted as the highest quality, the least biased. And and as we see here I just started following this Dread Bongo right now too as well. Vanek calls Bittensor the Bitcoin for machine learning. I don't know if they're doing that because it's proof of work and and they're using a similar like hashing algorithm, the Nakamoto consensus. I don't know, but it does have emissions. They do have validators. They do have miners, but they work differently. And so I really started thinking about this to make the show, and thinking about what if there was, we know that Bitcoin is digital gold. We know that Ethereum is a world computer with smart contracts, but that's not all the categories there probably will be. And one of the most important, if not the most important, arguably the most important technology that's being developed right now, certainly the one that scares us all the most, is AI, and excites us the most as well, right? But the discussions that are always being had is that it's being done by centralized, privatized, for-profits, highly questionable companies, and we will never know exactly what's going on under the hood. Additionally, I've always thought about, how do we advance as a global culture and elevate our entire species to like a more elevated, higher consciousness, right? And I'm not talking about some hippie stuff. I'm talking about, how do we solve major problems in the world where we stop doing stupid primitive things like, having people starving and killing each other on the planet. And there's just a lot of problems that need to be solved to figure this out. And while humans are busy, occupied caring about border lines between Russia and Ukraine or Palestine and Israel. There are bigger problems to solve. And once we can do that, and that will probably be done by artificial general intelligence, that is benevolent, that is good, the world will look like a much different place. And I want to be alive to see that. So I can't think of a better use case for a decentralized neural network, a brain, a world brain. If Ethereum is a world computer, maybe, I don't know, maybe Bittensor is a world brain that has checks and balances, that is as benevolent as possible, open as possible, open source. The thing is it's not easy to understand. Most things are easier to understand. And I think that's why, one, I've overlooked it for so long. Because you guys, if you've been watching the channel for a long time, I think I first mentioned it around $60, and now it's at $660, 10x ago, right? So what I do know is that it's something that I really want to dig in deeper. And I also don't want to come on to the channel and tell you guys about a bunch of projects that are going to pump just because they're going to pump, right? Like I don't want to do that, because I do think that like most things that aren't complete dog crap in the AI narrative right now are going to pump. And if you want to, like, that's just a good, if you just want to pump and go get some, I think over the next week or 2 or 3, as SORA rolls out to more people and it goes to open access, I think it's going to be a hot narrative. I think things will continue to pump. But what I want to do, I want to dig in deeper to Bittensor, because I think it could be the essentially Ethereum or Solana or layer 1, where all of the projects come together that want to build in its ecosystem. And I think it could be extremely powerful. And if that's the case, then it is undervalued. What I am going to do today is, in the description below, I'm going to leave a spreadsheet. And I have the research team right now. We're gathering essentially all of the Bittensor related projects, because projects can build on Bittensor, the Bittensor beta plays, and anything related to kind of AI pump. And we're going to be looking into these over the weekend and early next week. And then sometime during the middle of next week, I'll make another video, and we'll do more of the kind of normal altcoin style video where I tell you guys which ones I've decided to buy or go into or I'm excited about. So I want to leave you guys with that. I think this is one of the most important problems to solve. And with that, it actually makes me really, really excited to look into this more, because as of right now, we've just kind of buried our head in the sand and hope that whatever Elon or Sam or Bezos or whatever are building are going to be benevolent and not come kill us. And that's a lot of trust to put in a couple people. I'll catch you guys next weekend. Bye-bye.